There it
All
is.
right. Welcome to week 2 of the PKFL 2015 season review week recap. This week, I am joined by Joe Gillen, co-owner of the Spitting Lamacas. Welcome, Joe.
Actually, we changed our names. I'm coming to you from Machu Picchu behind me. Anyway, we're actually the Spitting Lamaka, like Happy Hanukkah. So one Lamaka right now. And if you guys see, we slapped a little yarmulke to make it this change. So,
So wait, are you saying I said it wrong because I had an S at the end?
yeah.
Okay, it's singular. Gotcha.
Happy Hanukkah. It's Happy Lamaka.
All right.
Spitting Lamaka. All
I'm
right.
probably going to mess that up
And
during this
Shalom,
podcast.
Shalom, Shalom, Yom Kippur. All right. Let's go.
All right, so first off, I want to do a league note. I want to do a reminder on waivers. They begin next week after week 3. Waiver order is going to be determined by worst to first record after next week. After the first waiver run, the order is fluid. It does not reset every week based on record, the same as last year. Just a reminder, if you claim someone during the waiver, you basically drop to spot 12 and you only move up if other teams make waiver claims. Anyone dropped during the Tuesday waiver process is placed on waivers for 2 days, and then a second waiver run will happen on Thursday night. So if you want to get someone, you put in someone that was dropped, you put in another claim, or you wait until take the risk and wait for them to go become a free agent and pick them up on Friday. It's basically the same as last year. It's more of a reminder just to keep everyone in the loop. All right. So, Joe, since I have you here, thought maybe do a short little interview with you. So
right.
you kind of hit on my first question already, but wanted to ask about the team name. So you kind of hit on that one already. What spurred the change on, though?
Well, we were the Spitting Llamas, and of course, those who know me know my family's from Peru. But I co-own the team with Adam Aronoff, who can't join us today, but I wanted to incorporate a little bit of his culture, and he's Jewish, so I just thought of slapping like I said, a yarmulke on the llama, and then calling them the Spitting Llamakas, and then I saw a shirt that said Happy Yarmulke, and that's where I got the yarmulke idea. So anyway, so now it's just one yarmulke, like the machine, So the llama. It's just one llama.
You guys do have probably the most professional, what do you call it? Avatar, whatever you would call it for your team. I like that.
Yeah.
It looks pretty cool when you pull up the matchups and stuff.
Thanks.
So Josh and I went. I assume you listened. I hope you listened to the preseason pod that Josh and I did.
I did. Yeah.
So we gave. I don't know if it was a harsh assessment, but I definitely don't think either one of us had you in the playoffs. What do you feel the outlook is for the Lamaka this year?
Yeah. So the Lamaka, I think, we're off to a rough start, and in our division, we got Huge Asshole, who's also off to a rough start. The Jugs, and we'll get into that, but in week 1, we barely missed out on beating them, and it was a horrible game. But those are the matchups we got to win to actually have a chance. I do like our team. I think we're still young. We took a hit with, obviously I was going to mention this, but everyone knows that Benjamin got hurt like right before the season started. So our draft was affected by that. I mean, we certainly needed running back help, and we picked up Yeldon. Sankey, his first week looked like he's going to have a good sophomore season. We drafted Perryman, who's been injured, and that was a little bit of a risk. So I think overall, our approach is we're going to be competitive. I mean, I know that we came in as a as a new team, and we were underdogs from the get-go last year. But I think it's always fun to be competitive. I'm not into thinking about and I think Adam agrees about just throwing games or trying to position yourself for the waiver or doing this or doing that. I like to win now, and you never know. With injuries, anything can happen. So we're going for it. I won't say we'll win it. I think that's too much, but we're definitely looking to get into the playoffs this year. So.
All right, cool. So in our review, we were talking about, you have solid QBs. You're one of the teams with the 3 QBs. Yeah. Any thought into trying to trade one of those QBs to try to get some more talent, or have you even?
Yeah. We actually threw out a few feelers, and we're open to trades. I think that's how we're going to improve. Our strategy is through trades and waiver wire, given the injuries that we have and how those roster spots are going to open up just simply because we have guys on IR. So yeah, we're open to trade. So if anyone looks at our team and needs a quarterback, yeah, we're available. Or we're deep on receiver too. And now I was looking at our running backs. We got a pretty good running back core too. So we'll see. But again, I think you guys mentioned this in the first podcast. Most teams like to wait a little bit to see how the season rolls on before pulling a trade. Maybe if someone's out after the 4th week, or someone wants to really go for it and they just need that final piece. So we'll see. But we're open to trading.
No, that's good to hear you're open. I think every team needs to be, just to try to get better. One thing I will call you on, I'm not going to agree with you on the running backs. If I'm looking at your team right here, Yeldon, right, Crowell, Langford, McKinnon, and Sankey. Right. Langford and McKinnon are back up, so I love Langford. We're going to get into your draft. I think that was a nice pick. But Crowell, Yeldon, and Sankey, I don't think that's going to scare many people going into most weeks. And I also know the depth is there for bye week. So I think you do need to make a move. I think you need to trade from that wide receiver and QB depth and try to get some running backs, which sounds like you guys are willing to do. So that's good to hear.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a young core. These Crowell and Sankey are in their second year, Yeldon's in the first year. But they're starting running backs, and you'll see. Sankey had a good first week. Crowell had a good. We'll see how it works out.
All right, I do like the confidence. I will say that. So I briefly just touched on it. I wanted to go into your draft. You hit on it. The Yeldon pick, I loved. I thought that was a nice pick in round 1. I liked Perriman too. Like you said, he has been injured, so he hasn't seen him. But I think he'll be the number 2 on the Ravens when he comes back. Langford, I loved. I actually would have loved to got him myself, obviously being a Forte owner. And even the Walford, the tight end, I like him. I think he's going to be a future stud in the league. So I kind of liked your draft overall. I assume you guys felt pretty good coming out of it.
Yeah, I think draft. Can you hear me here?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. My computer's acting up, so hopefully, yeah. Like I thought we had a decent draft. I thought we obviously went for running back help, and we thought we had Benjamin's. So just with Perriman, we understand he's a project, but if you look at that Ravens team, you got Joe Flacco, who's throwing to Steve Smith, who's also on our team. So just from a backup standpoint, he would have been good and made sense. We did end up picking up Walford, who, we believe with the Raiders starting to develop a pass game with Cooper and Carr, he might be a factor in that. So we'll see. We'll see. Again, it's a very young team, and then it's weird because we have really old guys, and then we have a bunch of young young guys. So I think we won't be struggling who to drop next year. Steve Smith obviously is last year. You got Andre Johnson who's getting up there in years. So attrition will just take care of that for us going forward. But yeah, I felt good about the draft. I mean, obviously, if we knew about the Benjamin injury earlier, we would have drafted a little differently. But
all right, and the last question I'm probably going to ask everyone that comes on. As of today, who's your pick to win the championship and why?
So well, based on the first 2 weeks, I got to give it to your team. But I think there's a few teams that'll give you a run. I do like Berto again this year. I think the Maris division. I'll get into them a little later, but yeah, I don't think anyone's getting scared there. Satan always has an outside shot. I really think and Minor does too. He had a nice win. So it really depends on trades. I think what people do on the waiver wire. I mean, I think your MVP this year is Judge Richard Berman. I mean, for goodness sake, if it wasn't for him, I think Brady wouldn't be in there and Gronk wouldn't be putting up those monster points. And those guys with that savvy trade last year really pushed you over the top. And then going into this year, I thought you were in trouble. I honestly saw your roster, with the quarterback and Brady being out. I'm sure that got you a little bit nervous. And you were cheering with the rest of Boston when Judge Berman said that Brady's free to play. So
yeah, I sent Berto a text right after that announcement came out and said the championship hopes are still alive. So
yeah, I think it would have been a rough go for you, honestly, if those guys weren't in the lineup. I mean, if you saw any of the preseason matches for the Patriots, they looked horrible. They looked out of sync. They didn't have a pass game. I mean, so good for you. Anyway.
Yeah, not great for my Jets, who have looked pretty good, actually.
That's right. Little Jets uniform on today.
Nice.
Representing. Yeah.
So let's go next into the games of this week. And actually, let's start since we actually faced off in a matchup. So let's go right into our game, I think. I had a lot of guys. All my guys actually either played on Thursday or the 1 o'clock games. I basically threw up my 100 and almost 32 points. And then I was just watching your score, and it kept creeping up. And I was like, damn, he might catch me here. But in the end, I kind of not cruised, but still ended up winning by a pretty large margin.
Yeah, so, I mean, we were much happier on the improvement from week 1, where we had 63 points and lost to the Jugs by, 8 points. We had Beckham score, 4 points that week, and we left Sankey on the bench who scored 20. Anyway, against you, I mean, I thought that we played better. There couldn't be anything from a fantasy management standpoint that we could have done differently. You just had a monster week. I mean, you had Robinson on your bench, for goodness sake, and you still scored 130 points, and he had 20-something points last week. So a little ridiculous.
He had 29. I also had Moncrief on my bench who scored 20.
Yeah, crazy. I mean, your bench are outscoring our starter. So I mean, it was just a tough matchup. We just. Adam and I were like, okay, it's kind of over. I mean, we had a little bit of hope. We had 3 – I think we had a defense and our tight end. I think we had that Colts game, right? So, but the Colts are terrible. So we knew that when they were laying an egg. I mean, I was happy as a Jet fan, but, as a fantasy fan, I knew it was over for us. So
yeah, on your team, I mean, Beckham, obviously back to where you expect him to be at 23 points after, like you said, that subpar week 1. Matty Ice, again, 20 points. I guess each week, are you guys looking at matchups to decide which of the 3 quarterbacks you're starting, or do you kind of have – is Matty Ice your front runner? Unless he has a bad matchup, you're pretty much starting him.
Yeah, I mean, I really wanted to see Eli come out strong. I mean, he had some good games with Beckham towards the end of last year, and that just didn't happen. He had the turnover issues against the Cowboys, and, we just went with Matty Ice, and I think we're going to ride him. I actually expect a lot from Bridgewater too, and Chris Johnson, who we started. I thought they were gonna open it up a little bit more. The pass was going to be there, given that Peterson was gonna run it to open up the pass and keep those especially the secondary honest. But just hasn't happened. Maybe this week against San Diego, we'll see Bridgewater kind of break out a little bit. But until Eli and Bridgewater are as consistent as Matt Ryan, we're still going to play Matt. So I was hoping Eli would have a couple good weeks and his trade value would go up. But if anyone's interested, especially if Victor Cruz, whoever has Victor Cruz, whoever needs a quarterback. So but I think we like Matt, and then long term we like Bridgewater, obviously.
You mentioned having the tight end from Indy, Dwayne Allen. He got hurt. So I looked at your lineup. You got Walford in there. I don't think he's projected to even play. So obviously you don't really have any other choice because there's no waivers. So I guess you're planning on taking a goose unless he does somehow miraculously play this week.
I lost a little bit of that.
Oh, I was saying that Dwayne Allen got hurt. So I see that your only other tight end is Walford, and I don't think he's projected for 0. I don't even know if he's actually playing yet.
Sorry.
So I think you might be
right.
Can you hear me?
Right. So yeah, I got the question. So yeah, I mean, we're gonna have to start. We're gonna have him. Actually had him start, so I thought it came from. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see if they use him more this week.
All right. Any other comments that you had? I know you took some notes before the podcast. Any other comments on our game or my team or your team that you want to get out before we move to the next game?
No, I'll save some comments for predictions. I have a few notes for that for week 3.
All right, game 2.
Unless you want to do that now. Okay.
No. Game 2 that I have, I just went in I don't know particular order, was Nate's versus Satan. Satan cruised to a 142 to 91.8 win, improving to 1-1, and the loss dropped the Nate's to 1-1. Basically, that whole Syracuse division is 1-1 now. As Josh and I said, probably going to end up being the toughest division, and they're going to beat the hell out of each other and be happy when they start playing the Marist and Big Ten divisions.
Right. So, I mean, Satan again with that win. They have Antonio Brown and Sanders, who I think can put up great numbers. They also have Baldwin and Floyd as nice flex options. I think where Satan is going to get, and I was looking at this, is they started Breeze in week 2 in that win. However, you got Roethlisberger on the bench, right? So I think that it's going to be interesting to see Rick and who he starts week to week. So that's something to watch. I think certainly running backs for Satan are a concern. He's got Stewart and Cunningham combining for 8.9 points in week 2. He's got Ellington hurt, so he's going to need a little bit of RB help. So the other point I made is the Nates. They had a nice win in week 1, and then just came up short. I mean, I think Jeremy Hill had this awesome week and then had 0.1 points. I looked it up. I think if they would have started, Jones from Washington, Crabtree, Torrey Smith, Ebron, they could have easily closed the gap and maybe won it. So I think from a fantasy lineup standpoint, they could have helped themselves. I'm a little pissed that they picked up Ebron. We had him last year as a young TE, and just let him go, picking up someone else on the wire because he wasn't playing, and they scooped him up, and he's producing for them this year. So those are my thoughts on that game and those two teams.
Yeah, very, very similar thoughts to what I had. And For Satan, again, I made the same point that the running backs are still the major issue. I mean, the 4 running backs on their team that did play for their teams scored 15 points total.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just not going to get it done in any week, anytime. So the one question I had for you actually about Satan, we've talked about it. You kind of hinted at it. You see them as a playoff team, a fringe playoff team. How do you see them for the season as we go along here?
Again, I see them, if they could pick up a good running back, either through a trade or the waiver wire, and Ellington gets healthy. I mean, they look like a strong team, right? So again, it's what Rick does with that at that running back spot that'll be interesting. And then I think, again, that quarterback, two solid quarterbacks. I don't know if they have a third quarterback on their roster. I can't see it, but
yeah, well, they drafted Mariota.
Yeah, so I mean, he might be able to trade one of those kind of upper echelon quarterbacks, right? So we'll see what he does.
Yeah, I reached out for him about Mariota, but it didn't go very far. So
yeah, I think he's going to get rid of Breeze or Roethlisberger. I mean, that's going to be his play.
Depends. Do you want to get better, or do you want to try to get rid of Breeze and Roethlisberger? that was my argument.
Right.
And on the Nates, I agree. Yeah, they had some low points. I mean, Newton was his obvious normal self. Latavius Murray and Landry both had great games. Watkins finally had a good game, which was, I'm sure, happy. Jonathan was happy to see that. And the Jeremy Hill thing, I guess the concern would be the 0.1 points is because he fumbled twice and got pulled from the game. And Gio Bernard came in and had a great game. So I wonder if that's going to be more of a committee, because I think it was more of like a 70-30 committee. And if that drops down to a 50-50 committee, Berto suddenly has a nice flex player in Bernard, and suddenly Jeremy Hill becomes maybe less of the first round pick that he was kind of drafted as in redraft leagues. So
he becomes the 2014 version of Bernard.
Yes. That's a great point.
Yeah.
And I did want to point out, I think you said that. Why am I going to blank on his name? Matt Jones looked really good. So I guess turnabout is fair play, where he has the backup for Berto's Alfred Morris, who can now suddenly take a ding. So maybe they're banging off each other and taking points away from each other. So it's interesting how that worked out. All right. Any other points on that game?
Nope.
All right, let's move to the next game I had. It was Jugs versus Hugh Jasshall. The Jugs put up the high score of the week, 142.14, and easily beat Jasshall, who scored, actually was the tough luck loser of the week with 101 points.
Yeah.
Jugs 2-0, Jasshall 0-2. To be honest with you, those two records don't surprise me. It's kind of how Josh and I outlined it in the preseason pod. Right. I'll let you go into your comments before I go into mine.
So I think Jasshole and I are in the same boat. I mean, we had, I think, 1 point less than them, so we would have been the second, sore loser this week. Going against two really, really great teams. For the Jugs, for them to put up 142 is surprising, given that they have 4 quarterbacks, Antonio, Rice, and Bell. None of them are playing. He's got 3 on his bench that can't play. He can't play. So the fact that he scored 142 points is amazing. D'Angelo Williams, that was a smart pick. I gave that Schwab.
Yeah.
I mean, we all knew he had it in him, but just that Steelers offense, he's ripping it up. Edelman again, to the Brady comment. Edelman had Brady was he's got a and I think Baxter. I mean, that guy, if he comes in.
Joe, you're breaking up a little bit. I'm going to hope that your internet comes back, but I'm going to piggyback on your point on D'Angelo Williams. Definitely a nice little grab by Schwab there, just because he knows he has Le'Veon Bell out. And I was amazed to see, but D'Angelo Williams is the 4th highest non-scoring QB through 2 weeks, and the highest scoring running back through the season. So obviously a great pickup, nice fill in for the suspended Bell. Obviously, D'Angelo Williams, his value and his role is going to change this week with Bell back. But if anything happens to Bell, or to be honest with you, if it's a 60-40, 70-30 split, D'Angelo can still have some value in his flex. So definitely a nice move by Schwab there, getting D'Angelo Williams, who looked really good through the first 2 weeks.
Yeah.
All right, I think you're back.
I'm back. Yeah.
I also thought
Sorry, I don't know what's going on.
I don't know if it was dumb luck or a great coaching choice, but he did start VJax over Macklin, which I don't know if any ranking would say to do, but that was a nice job, and he got some extra points by doing that. How about this?
Yeah, I had that noted. I had that noted where. Go ahead.
No, sorry. I asked you about Satan. I think Josh and I both had the Jugs in the playoff. What's your view on the Jugs?
I think that Jassel or the Lamaga could knock him off again, just because he's that Gates and Rice and 3 quarterbacks that he can't play. I mean, those are 5 roster spots, and I don't know. I mean, he's tearing it up right. Well, the first week he only scored 71 points, right? And we were lucky. I mean, he was lucky we didn't play Sankey, or else we would have won. I think that Jassel he's been really, really a great fantasy manager with his picks. Like you said, his bench is weak, but everyone he played scored the most, so he maximized his team, right? He only left 6 points in week 1 on the bench, and he left 18 points in week 2 on the bench, and 10 was for Taliaferro. So, I mean, he's milking that team, and if he could, I think he's going to be competitive this year. And I think Jugs are getting lucky. I mean, this week it was just unbelievable score, but if he has any more of those 70 to 100 point weeks, I could see him losing, and Jassel and Lamaga coming up. So
that's a great point that I didn't actually catch when I was looking at his team. He has five bench spots tied up in players that just basically can't start for him right now. So
right.
The 3 quarterbacks, Ray Rice and Gates, who's suspended. So he better pile up some wins early, because I don't know about his depth overall if some injuries happen.
Right.
And then let's talk a little bit about Jassal. Like I said, tough luck loser for the week, which always sucks. Bortles had a pretty good week with 21, and Cooper looked pretty damn good, putting up 19. Jordan Matthews, I mean, his receivers are young and good. I think we talked about in the preseason pod. I mean, he's pretty deep with young talent. If these guys all take off, he's going to be in pretty damn good shape.
I'm gonna mention something about Evans though. So he's got to be a little concerned with him, given that Tampa Bay scored 26 points this week. Winston had a breakout, and Evans had 0 points. I mean, so yeah, I mean, he's got a good receiver, but it's still young, and that's the lottery, right? With these young guys, you don't know if their coach is going to trust them or play them. So
no, that's a really good point. I had that down. Great call out. I'm not sure how. I didn't watch any of that game, so I didn't see it, but I know he did play. So it is kind of shocking that he put up a 0.
Yeah, no, he definitely played the game, and he just, I don't know, he didn't get a look, or I'm not sure what happened there. But I'd like to say that Cooper's going to be, that Raiders team put up points against a Ravens defense that took care of the Broncos that week 1. Peyton looked like like nothing, and then they come back and I mean I think they lost Suggs, so that's a big loss for the Ravens D. But for the Raiders to come out, I think they're looking good. So Cooper might be a really great pick for him.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think I said it during that podcast. I love that. After those 2 top backs in the draft, I thought Cooper was a no-brainer there just because, first of all, wide receivers last a lot longer, and to me, he was just the best one on the board. So great pick there. Anything else on that game?
Nope. I think that's it.
All right, let's move on. The next 3 games are basically going down in scoring here because I'm going to start off with the 3rd lowest scoring game of the week. Stiff Arm beating the Pieces 89.4 to 84.76. Stiff Arm improving to 2-0, and the Pieces dropping to 0-2.
So Stiff Arm has Carson Palmer, who I'm thinking is playing. He's one of the best, if not the best, quarterback in the league right now. He's just phenomenal. I think that Fitzgerald benefited with that 31.2 points. So he's got that there. He's got that robo injury, Stiff Arm. So he does have Peyton Manning. So I think he'll be fine there. Cobb.
I think he's fine there for the short term, but obviously Peyton's old. Peyton's going to have a bye. And also we kind of suggested he needed to move one of those guys to get more depth. Is another guy rich in quarterbacks that kind of needs more depth on his team. So losing Romo pretty much eliminates him being able to move him. So at least in the short term, I would think.
Right. I mean, he's got DeMarco Murray. I mean, again, that Philly team is not looking good, but he's getting points. One of the things I found interesting was he has a lot of tight ends. He's got Bills. He's got Davis from San Fran. He's got Green from.
Joe?
Opportunities there. But he's not, he's not a star running back for him. So Witten is the type. I don't know. He doesn't have questions.
Yeah, that's another great call out, Joe, and nice research prior to the podcast. There, I didn't realize he had 4 tight ends on his team. And to be honest with you, I feel like he never starts them in the flex. So again, I don't know maybe the balance of his roster here, why he's got so many tight ends. I mean, obviously he can start him in the flex, but it seems a little tight end heavy there.
Yeah.
What else did I have? You brought it up quickly, but Murray has just looked brutal in that Philly offense. They've all looked awful, but it seems like he doesn't fit into their scheme, and their offensive line stinks. So unless I see an improvement, his stock for me, if we were doing a redraft, his stock is falling big time.
Yeah, I agree.
Let's move on. Go ahead. Sorry.
Pieces. No, I was just going to, move on to Pieces.
Yeah.
Again, Andy Dalton, not an elite quarterback, but a nice player. He's got Lynch who needs to eat some Skittles because he's not a beast yet, but I won't count him out. He's got a nice core in Gordon and Hilton as young studs, and then that Cruz injury is helping him. As far as his draft, he had picked up Quick from St. Louis, who I thought might get some playing time, but looks like he's going to be a longer-term project. So those are some of the comments I had for Pieces.
Yeah, for the Pieces, I mean, it was Dalton and nobody else. I mean, they got 40 points out of all their position players and their flex. So out of what? 6 positions, they got 40 points. I mean, that is just not going to get it done. I mean, that's brutal. Actually, I don't even know how that's possible, to be honest with you. But everybody had a bad week, so
Yeah,
we
but he's
talked
0-2,
about
so
they started Buck Allen in their flex. He scored .7. I mean, they started Forsett and Buck. They basically started the Ravens' backfield this week, and
right.
it didn't work out very well for them.
Yeah. Again, a little bit of the injury bug, a little bit of, I think, his draft. I don't know if his draft really helped him. Well, he did get Gordon, yeah, but that quick pick, I don't know where it went to. So,
All right,
okay.
enough on that low-scoring game. Let's move on to the second lowest-scoring game of the week, with Miner eking out the win, 82.4 to 80.96 over the Stash. Both teams, again, in that Syracuse division, everybody's 1-1. A few points that I had on that game is Miner going into Monday Night Football was down by 10 with luck to play. So to me, it was a no-brainer that they were going to probably even win easily. It ended up not being easy because Luck had an awful game, throwing 3 picks, had a fumble, and he only ended up scoring 11 points. They only won by a little over a point. The question I have for you, or a stat before I give you the question. Since the start of last season, Luck has 28 turnovers. And in the last 9 games, he's averaging 223 passing yards and has more interceptions than touchdowns. How concerned do you think Mr. Miner should be about Luck, if at
No,
all?
I mean, I don't think he should be concerned. I think that um, he's just trying too hard at times, and you see this with Eli too sometimes. But it's just his growth in becoming a great NFL quarterback. I think he's got the mechanics, he's got the smarts, and I wouldn't be concerned with Luck. I think he's going to turn it around. He does have new personnel, right? He's got Frank Gore in the backfield. He's got Johnson now. He's throwing to him. So that's I wouldn't be concerned with Luck. I just think it's just part of becoming a great NFL quarterback.
Yeah, I agree with you. I was just amazed by that stat because when you hear 9 games, I mean that's a pretty big sample size, and 223 and more interceptions than touchdowns. Even if you asked me that question, I would have said no, that can't be true. So when I heard that stat, I was like, wow, that's pretty amazing. But I am with you. You don't lose any faith in Luck. I mean, you're drafting today. I'm still probably taking him in the top 3. Maybe I'm not taking him number 1 overall for a quarterback anymore, but
Right.
I'm still taking him real early. He's still upper echelon. I wouldn't be worried about him, but I just thought that was a nice stat that I happened to hear.
Yeah.
As usual, he gets good performances out of his wide receivers. I mean, Demaryius Thomas is a beast. A.J. Green. Coleman, who we talked about from his draft, had another great performance, but he hurt his rib, so he's going to be out for probably a few weeks. So
Yeah.
we talked about their lack of depth at running back, so that's going to be probably a pretty painful injury for Mr. Miner.
Yeah, I mean, I like Coleman a lot. I have him in another league. I think he's really, really looking good. He does have Derek Carr, who scored 29 points versus Luck's 11. Not that I can see him starting Carr, but it's nice from a long-term perspective.
Yeah, well, everybody mocked that trade when I made it with Moran because I was hyping up Carr.
Carr, yeah.
I knew he was good, and I think Moran made a great trade there, but I think it's going to come around and everyone's going to realize that was a really good trade for Mr. Miner.
Yeah. And like you mentioned, running backs, he's got Dave Johnson, who he picked up in the draft. He's a nice player. I don't know if he's hurt. And then he picked up Funchess in the draft, and he's, again, one of these long-term projects. You're not going to give him the ball. Even with Benjamin looks, that's not good for his short-term prospects, but perhaps in the long term. Yeah, but he's got Thomas on Denver, Green, Bowles, over 10 points each. So he'll be all right. He'll still be one of the league. You know, they go from 152 to 80. He left.
Joe, you're breaking up, so I'm gonna jump in here. Let's go to the stash. Obviously, for me,
Freeman.
Joe, you're breaking up a little bit, so I don't know if people could hear that. So yeah, I don't know if Joe's frozen, so I'm gonna start talking, hoping he comes back. I mean, the stash putting up 80 to me was a shock, or 81 was a shock. I mean, Rogers still had a good game. Julio had a good game. Terrence Williams, those three scored 51 points, and the rest of his team scored 30. So pretty low scoring output. Obviously, the Lacey injury had an impact on that. I don't know how long term that is. He only got 1 point. C.J. Anderson was hurt going into the game on a short week. Didn't have the great matchup, and he only scored 3. I actually told Berto I benched C.J. Anderson in another league, but he's decided to keep him in. He made a coaching decision that wasn't the best, putting Decker on the bench, and started Ryan Matthews, who gave him a goose egg. Gio had 15 on his bench. So Berto's still deep. I don't think Berto's very worried. One bad week, I'm sure he'll bounce back quick.
Yeah. I hope you can hear me now, but
yeah.
I was just making the point about C.J. Anderson. I don't think he's been productive this year for him, as productive as predicted. But yeah, Matthews had a goose egg this week, and I think those two guys will be back.
And we mentioned it, or I mentioned it maybe earlier, but what do you think about how worried should Berto be about Morris and the emergence of Matt Jones in Washington? Actually, we have Alfred Morris on our team, so we should have that same concern.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that might be a committee. That committee, a running back committee, might be in formation right now. I think that's where I see that going.
All right, you have any other notes on that game?
Nope, that's it.
All right, and then the let's call it the stinker of the week. JR Rules versus the Sharks, lowest scoring game, and basically a race to 70, and the Rules got there first, beating the Sharks 70-63.
Yeah. So for JR, I mean, again, I mentioned Palmer, great quarterback right now, playing really well. But interestingly, he's got Brown from the Cardinals who just doesn't score for him. So either if Palmer starts finding him, that'll be good. I like his draft. I like that Abdullah pick. I'm high on him. He's got 3 quarterbacks, Cutler and Rivers, on the bench, and I think with Cutler hurt, he missed an opportunity to trade there because now he literally just has 2 quarterbacks.
We've been talking about it since the middle of last season.
Yeah.
Did you notice on the site that he sent like a message saying wants to trade one of the
Yeah, now that he's hurt, I mean, maybe someone picked him up. In week 1, I just have to point that Safarian Jenkins from the tight end, man, 25 points that first game, came back to the reality this game.
And now he's hurt. He's out for
now he's hurt. Yeah, and then you got Green Beckham, who I really liked in the draft. Nice player. With Mariota, they could be starting something there in Tennessee. So, but again, 70 points will do it against the Sharks, but he's not going to win many games with.
No, he shouldn't do it against the Sharks. I mean, JR's got to be thanking the scheduling gods, because he would have lost to every other team in the league this week. So, I mean, take the win. A win is a win, and you take it and you move on. But you got to feel pretty lucky there. I wouldn't be talking any smack to Josh, basically, this week.
Yeah.
Speaking of
And then the
Josh and the Sharks, I mean, pretty shitty week.
Oof. I think pretty shitty season. I mean, I got to tell you that Foster, Nelson injuries, Bryant suspension. He still has Monty Ball in his roster. I mean, he's just 4 guys he can't use. And then he's got, if he would have played, I think on this loss, if he would have played Dunbar and Sims for Alfred Brew and Sproles, he would have won it by 0.4 points. So it's not like they would have helped him a lot, but he would have won.
Nice dig out there. I thought this is crazy. Stafford, Marshall, and Stevie Johnson scored 49, and the rest of his team scored 14 points.
And
Aguilar, that's insanity.
Yeah.
I don't even know how that's possible.
Well, just like DeMarco Murray's struggling in Philly, I mean, you got Randall struggling there at Dallas, and they just can't get that running game going. And they have the line. I just don't get it. I mean, I was expecting a lot more, and I'm sure he was from Randall this year. And Aguilar, I mean, most people were drafting him and starting him right, and he just hasn't gotten the touches. And again, he's doing okay, but I think there was more expectation in that Chip Kelly offense for him to put up some points. So
the biggest question for me for the Sharks, to me, has to be Jimmy Graham. Like, that move to Seattle seems like a failure. So my question to you is Seattle going to find a way to find him the ball or get him the ball, or is he all of a sudden a mediocre tight end now?
Yeah, I think they're going to have to start finding him. I don't know what the solution there is in Seattle. But yeah, I mean, I won't give up on him. He's a good player. He just has to find his way with that team. And there's something to be said about players who move to other teams. I mean, and other coaches and just other systems. They're basically, he might be learning. I'm still high on Jimmy Graham. I think he's young.
Yeah, I'm definitely not ready to
turn around. He was one of those upper level elite tight ends, so wouldn't rule him out yet.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I mean, I'm not ruling him out, but Jimmy Graham was someone that gave Josh, the Sharks, an advantage every week, kind of like having Gronk. Like, to not have that anymore definitely weakens, in my mind, the overall talent level of the Sharks. So, I mean, Josh has to be concerned. I think any fantasy owner that owns Jimmy Graham has to be concerned. But I also think Pete Carroll's a smart guy. I think they're going to figure out a way. I saw that Graham put out some comments that he's not happy. So I think they're going to force feed him the ball and try to find a way to get him the ball. So I'm expecting that to turn around. So, I mean, I wouldn't worry, but I'm sure Josh isn't comfortable with how it's been going.
Right.
All right.
So were those all the games?
That's all the games. Next thing is quickly, we'll just run through the awards. Highest scoring team of the week, Jugs with 142. Highest scoring player, Roethlisberger, 32.76. And he was on the bench for Satan, but didn't really matter. Satan blew out one big anyway. Biggest disappointment I had is Mike Evans with 0. Did any other disappointments come out for you?
I think luck. You got to put luck in there. I mean,
that's
11
a great point.
That's like
biggest surprise of the week I had is Travis Benjamin, who's a free agent. He scored 25.5 points.
Yeah, pretty awesome. Yeah, I would agree on that one.
And then the tough luck loser, as I mentioned, was Jassol with 101 points. Would have beat 8 of the other 10 teams. So
I feel his pain. We had 1 point less. I feel his pain.
Yep. All right, so Joe, let's go into week 3 preview, and I think I have my picks. I think you said you have some picks, so let's go game by game. The first game I have written down is the Jugs against my Maulers. I'm picking myself, but I think it's going to be a close matchup after looking at each team, who they're playing and who their matchups are. I think it will be close. Who do you have?
Yeah, I agree. It's going to be close. I have you winning simply because he's got 5 guys he can't use on his bench. But you got Brady and Gronk against that Jacksonville team who just had a nice win. And then you have Forte at Seattle, that tough defense, and then you have Charles at Green Bay, which is never easy. So for that, I think it's going to be close, but I still have you pulling it out.
All right, battle of the undefeateds. Next game I actually have are You're Spitting Lamaka versus Hugh Jassol. And Joe, I'm sorry to tell you, I got Jassol for his first win this week.
All right, and I'm gonna make our point. So most of Jassol's starters are actually playing away games this week. He also has Miller and Cameron. Miller and Cameron are at home but are banged up, so that's the Miami versus Buffalo matchup. And then he's starting again those tight ends. He's starting 2 tight ends. So depending on how those passing games work, he might get those points or not, right? So those were some of my predictions. I think that Lamaka's, we have Giants who are desperate for a win. I think Beckham's going to have a good week. You got Sankey at home to the Colts, and then you got Yeldon at New England, where running backs have had success against New England, and then Crowell at Oakland. So, I like us squeaking out the victory here, but we'll see. I think it's going to be a close match. I wouldn't be surprised if it's like an 82-80 scoreline, but who knows? Maybe we'll surprise the league.
All right. So the next game I had down was Satan versus Mr. Minor, and I have Satan in a close one.
Okay, so I have, again, we talk about Satan's running backs and they battle actually each other this week. He's got Stewart on Carolina versus Spiller in New Orleans. I predict Minor's is gonna win this simply because the Colts have to bounce back. They have to have a game, and it's against Tennessee, who's coming off a loss. So if that defense who's our defense, could somehow get to Mariota, I think Luck and Gore can have good games for Minor. So I'm gonna give that one to Minor.
All right, you're taking Minor. All right. And then the next game I had was Sharks against the Pieces. And I'm actually going to say Pieces handily, putting the Sharks at 0-3 and in danger of missing the playoffs.
So this might be Pat's first win. I have here might be an ugly game, but Pieces does have the upper hand with Lynch and Gordon versus Randall and Blue in the running back matchup. So I agree. I'm going to go with Pieces on this, and right. Sharks are still in the cellar here.
All right, next game I had was Stash against the Nates. I have the Stash coming back angry, blowing out the Nates.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing with Stash is Lacey has a tender ankle right now, but this is a bounce-back week. I still have them winning, too. I think they're one of the elite teams. And then I think the Nates just need to hope that Lacey is really injured and can't go. And I think that'll give them a better chance to win. But I'm going to go with Stash.
Yeah. And one point, I'm just looking at his thing, and we did forget to mention that they didn't have Des Bryant and won't have him for a while, so that will sting as well. And Decker is probably going to miss at least a week, if not 2 or 3. So definitely getting hit by the early injury bug with Lacey, Bryant, and Decker there.
Right.
But I'm still predicting to win this week. So you're taking the Stash?
I am.
And the last game is Stiff Arm against JR Rules, and I have Stiff Arm pretty easily.
So I got Stiff Arm. I I predict JR actually to squeak by stiff arm. I think Palmer is just going to continue to roll. That's why I'm high on JR. DeMarco Murray is going to go against that tough Jet. So it's still going to. And I don't know if this is the game where Philly comes out of their funk against the Jets, but Jets D looking really good. So that's why I'm actually going with.
All right. Well, that's it. That's all we have for the week, unless you had something else. First off, Joe, I want to say thanks.
Me there?
You still there? Joe?
Me.
Hopefully you can hear me. I want to say thanks for joining the pod. Great job prepping. I love the prep work, coming in prepared and ready to talk about a lot of stuff. I think it went really well.
Did you hear my pre today?
Hello. Well, Joe, hopefully you heard me. Thank you for coming on the pod. Hopefully we can work out the technical difficulties. I also want to say thanks for, I think you signed up for a second podcast in a few weeks, so I appreciate that.
Okay.
Call out to all you others. We still need people for podcasts, so I'll send out the open dates, but suck it up, volunteer. It doesn't take that long, and we'd love to hear from you. Joe, any final words?
Nope. I just it's a great league, part of it, and those who haven't played poker with a lot of us in this league, you're more than welcome.
Yeah, I'd like that invite.
Did you get me on that?
No, it broke up at the end, but you invited somebody to the league to poker. I like the thought.
Yeah. That's right. And I basically said, I wish everyone luck. So.
All right, Joe. Well, thanks again, and good luck this week.
Take care.
Take it easy. Bye.
Go Lamaka. Bye.